Hi, this is Greg Kihlstrom. Welcome to the Agile World podcast, where we discuss customer experience, employee experience, and transformation in an agile age. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed on this show, you can go to my website at theagile.world and read my latest articles or get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, a blueprint for creating an experience-led organization, now available on Amazon and other retailers. Hi, this is Greg Kihlstrom. Welcome to the Agile World podcast. Today I'm going to talk about one of the properties of the Center of Experience. In my latest book, The Center of Experience, I talk about several aspects of what it takes for an organization to set up a center of excellence around the practice of both customer and employee experience. I refer to this as the Center of Experience. Today we're going to talk about brand. That's one of the six primary components in this Center of Experience. Seth Godin said, "A brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another." Certainly, there's lots of definitions of brands from many experts out there. I wrote a whole book about branding called The Agile Brand and talked about how brands really have evolved from a very simple identifier to something much deeper and a relationship that it has with its customers as well as its employees. In terms of the Center of Experience, brand is such an important component because for a few reasons. First, it's often the first thing that most audiences will both see and experience about an organization. And because of this fact, it has a powerful effect. While brands have become more sophisticated over time, there's still a very basic element of recognition and response that benefit successful brands, and often, unfortunately, have very negative effects on brands that make missteps. As part of the Center of Experience, I've outlined branding and a brand into three primary aspects, and there's two elements in each. So I'll go over the three primary elements first, and then talk about those sub elements. The three are existential value and belief, second, recognition and differentiation, and finally, value and joy. So let's talk first about existential value and belief. So this is how an organization defines its goal and reason for existence. This category of brand elements is often far-reaching and sometimes abstract, but without practical ways to define and measure, it will fail to be successful. Great brands understand this balance. Part of existential value and belief includes two things. The vision. This is really, the brand's mission or what it aims to achieve to benefit its customers, its employees, shareholders, and the world at large. This vision includes its promise to those audiences. And second, values. This includes what a brand stands for. What will it always or never do? How will it always stay true to its mission? As with all other elements of a brand, these values are for both internal and external audiences. We often think of a brand as something that's, mostly consumer-facing, but with all the competition for talent these days and the employer branding, it's so important that not only a brand takes internal audiences in mind, but that it's consistent between both. The second main category of branding I refer to as recognition and differentiation. So this relates to how an organization positions itself as relevant to its audiences and the methods it uses to connect tangibly with its customers, employees, and others. This includes position, or how an organization defines or distinguishes itself from competitors, and the place a brand occupies in the minds of its audiences. So, this could be it's a luxury brand or it's the cheap brand. It could be, it's really that place that it occupies where I know that when I have X problem to solve, I am going to go to this, I'm going to buy this product. I'm going to hire this service whatever it may be, because I know it fits my budget, it fits my needs, so on and so forth. Second category within that is the attributes. So, the when we're talking about recognition and differentiation, attributes of a brand mean, these are the words, the symbols, the personality. So these are the things that we could, ideally describe to others very easily. So, what color is the logo? Is their advertising mostly humorous? Do they take themselves too seriously? So on and so forth. These are those easily identifiable attributes about a brand that all audiences should be able to understand and remember. The third main category is called value and joy. So this talks about the emotional aspects of a brand, as well as articulating the tangible returns its audiences can expect from their experiences. So under value and joy, we would have experience. So as you would imagine, talked quite a bit about this already on this show, but this is how audiences interact, how they communicate, how they consume a brand's products and services. This is what it's like to work at a company for an employee, from both from being recruited and hired in the organization to the time they leave. It's all of those things. It's every touch point that someone has with an organization. The second item under value and joy would be benefits. So, this defines the value proposition that audiences get from interactions with the brand. So it's what they get from using its products and services. It's the tangible value they gain from hiring, from buying, from working, all of those types of things. And, this can vary greatly, obviously, depending on the brand. And, especially if you're, depending on if you're a customer or an employee, but it is such a critical aspect. Ultimately it's what sticks with someone, from that value perspective. And so, as I mentioned, the audiences of a brand, there are certainly internal audiences. So employees, board members, shareholders, leadership, you can sort of slice this in a lot of different ways, but it's important, as I was saying earlier, that a brand, it can distinguish how it talks to an extent, to an internal versus external audience, but it shouldn't be fundamentally different. There shouldn't be different values displayed to customers versus employees. The values of an organization should be consistent. It should be the reason why you buy as well as why you want to work for, and things like that. And so, those internal audiences, certainly, a key one, particularly when we're talking about employee experience. External audiences would be customers, it would be partners, vendors, all of those types of things. It's not only people buying from you, but it's people that work with you, represent you in some cases of partners and things like that. So a very key audience that you want to make sure understands your brand, and really holds your values as well. You really don't want a vendor or partner that does not share your company's values, because they have a lot. They might be working with your customers. They might have other impacts to your business, and not being able to have that control over your values could be very detrimental. And finally, just in talking about this topic, so I wanted to I wanted to distinguish between branding and brand experience. So I talked quite a bit about brand experience being this combination of employee experience and customer experience, and really tying that together for the benefit of the organization. When we talk about branding, this is the subjective and objective ways that a company or product, in some cases, sets itself apart from its competition, and really how it does that using those elements that I discussed previously. So and thus it's a sub element of the center of experience. So it's really it's really that way that people identify with the organization in those ways. So a couple ways to think about this, and perhaps even get started understanding it better. You may not sit on the brand team, or a communications team that has a lot more let's say, stewardship over the brand, but doesn't mean that you shouldn't, try to thoroughly understand your company's vision, mission, and values. And, worst case, if those aren't clear, that's something important that the company should know. If you work at a company, it should be very clear what its values and mission are. So it's something to really try to understand. And, to take it a step further, think about the last, one or two large initiatives your team completed, and, do they align with company values? How were decisions made, and, how were tough decisions weighed? If they mostly align with values, that's good. If they definitely align with values, that's even better. And if not, why is the case? Why are the brand mission and values not being fully realized or implemented? And what can you do better as well? Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile World podcast, brought to you by TEKsystems. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. You can learn more and get a copy of my latest book, The Center of Experience, from my website at theagile.world or on Amazon or other retailers. Until next week, stay agile.